Hey, Ben.
Hey, Tom.
I got to... I must ask you a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, whichever one you choose. Thank you. And also, thank you for watching on YouTube. And, Ben and I enjoy the YouTubes. And, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. Ben, what's going on?
Chilling.
Yeah? How was your day?
It was good. We had adventure group today.
Okay.
Had some fun doing that. The camaraderie and joyousness and fellowship is always good. It's really nice. We have a really solid community right now at Rock.
Yeah.
We always do, but this one just really stands out.
Yeah, we got some good people right now, which is a breath of fresh air. Because every now and again, we get a nightmare community that lasts for a few weeks, but
luckily that only occurs with us like twice a year, and it's usually
short-lived.
Yeah, it's very short-lived.
And it always is from like one or two people.
Yeah, it literally spreads like that. Takes one or two, and then they just kind of. But once they see their own way out, everything goes back to status quo.
Yeah. All right, so we're continuing our series on our 12-step study, and today we are covering step 10, I believe, right?
Yes, we are.
Step 10 is...
continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it.
This is a very important step, and I think it's one of the hardest ones for people to do.
I do too. They refer to 10, 11, and 12 oftentimes as maintenance steps. I don't really buy that, though, because I think, to me, maintenance just kind of sounds like stagnant. And the reason I say that is I feel like if you're not growing, you're going backwards. So I believe it's about constantly growing, not maintaining. I don't want to maintain my sobriety. I want to continue to grow indefinitely.
Yeah, and if you look at the actual context of step 10, when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. No, not a lot of people like to admit when they're wrong. But with that being said, that is why it's the 10th step and it's not in any of the steps before.
Yeah.
Because by the time you go through the first 9 and you get to this point, in theory, you're supposed to be at a point in terms of your growth that you recognize the importance of admitting your wrongs, right?
Absolutely.
All right, well, take us into it.
So step 10, I want to touch on the fact it says continue to take personal inventory. We learn how to take inventory in step 4. So really, we're just building on those principles. When we're wrong, promptly admit it. We just finished 9, so now you know how to make amends. I forgot to mention, Tom and I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, any 12-step fellowship as a whole. This is just our 2 guys with our experience.
That's right.
All right, enough said on that. So yeah, it's about continuing to do what the first 9 steps basically already taught us to do. And I'm glad I busted my book out, and I'm not going totally off the top of my head, but it says continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We are going to make mistakes. What are we going to do about it? And the thing about promptly admitting when I'm wrong nowadays is like, I've built this trust back. Wouldn't you rather, for instance, if you're in a place of employment, wouldn't you rather be with somebody when they make a mistake, they just come forward with their own mistake and they're like, hey, Tom, I screwed this up. It's like, yeah, let's just fix it and we'll move on, versus someone like waiting to get caught that they made the mistake and then they try to lie about it. Just be upfront. That's how, everybody I know is going to make mistakes. I prefer when people just come straight out with it and I'm like, all right, team, let's get it right. It's the principle behind that I like.
Yeah, it's, there's a lot to be said about that, because even for those people that haven't gone through the steps, we all have somebody in our life that has mess something up, or they, well, if you have kids, I mean, you can often reference them. I know, at least for my kids, I catch them. Now they're young. They're very young. So I can't expect them to come to me and be like, hey, Dad, I just wrote with Sharpie marker all over the floor. No, that never works that way. I end up catching them and, got to address it there. But as we get older and as we go through life, I mean, you want somebody, and, even us here, as we kind of oversee rock and with our clients, there's something to be said with the growth. If you have two clients and they both commit the same offense, and let's just say, rent is a good example. When somebody enters into an IOP level of care here with us, they are responsible to pay a weekly rent of $100. And it's not because we need the money. It's because we want them. This is part of the transition of going back into the real world. You have to understand how to manage money. You're no longer spending it on drugs and alcohol. So we say, okay, you're going to pay $100 a week for your living expenses, so on and so forth. Now, if you have two people, and neither of them have the money, one of them comes to us and says, hey, this is the situation. This is why I don't have the money. Can you work with me on this? So on and so forth. We're 100% of the time going to say yes. We're going to work with you on this. Thank you for coming communicating with us. But then you got the other knucklehead that pretends as if we're not going to know and just doesn't do anything, doesn't say anything. And then we have to approach this person and say, hey, man, or woman, where's the rent money? And they come up with some baloney story as to why they don't have it. Meanwhile, they, got a brand new tattoo that they got the night before, kind of a similar situation. Now you got two clients here that one, I would say, is further along in their maturity in terms of their sobriety. And, that's what this, I think part of this step is designed. And that, again, why I said it's at step 10 and not step 1, 2, or anywhere else before that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the rent, because just to be frank with you, rent money here from our clients isn't even a drop in the bucket compared to our overhead. It is more about personal growth and responsibility and an opportunity to be an adult. Parents a lot of times, I know this is kind of random and maybe a little bit off topic, but parents a lot of times, when I get them on the phone, they're like, oh, where do I send the rent money to? And I'm like, I don't want you as the parent paying the rent. I want the client to pay the rent. This is not your responsibility. This is their responsibility. Don't do for them what they can do for themselves. We talked about enabling before. But I digress. The step 10 for me too, and this is my own take on it, it's about integrity. They say, a lot of people will tell you integrity is doing the right thing when no one else is looking. Our buddy Eric always talks about integrity is doing the right thing despite personal consequences. Coming forward, admitting your wrongs despite what the personal consequences may be. That's real integrity. But I want to read another part out of the book. I'm going to paraphrase it. It says, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. That goes back to, we now, as people that are in recovery, have an opportunity to become more effective with helping other people, being more understanding of other people. It's where patience, love, and tolerance really comes in. And if we touch on the actual inventory part, the instructions are right here. We continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. There's a lot there. I want to point out that the part that I read about selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, it says when these crop up. It doesn't say if, it says when. Tom, have you felt any of those four today? Selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, or fear?
Yes.
Yeah, so have I. I can honestly look at that and check all four.
Well, I can't check all four.
I know.
Wait, do them slow.
Selfishness?
Hang on. Selfish. Have I been selfish today? Yeah.
Have you been dishonest?
No.
What about with yourself?
No.
About anything?
I don't think so.
Oh, man. Tom's lying to himself. He doesn't even know it. That's a tough one.
What's the next one?
Resentment.
Yes.
Have you had any fear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care how long you've been sober, chances are that 3 or 4 of them will crop up every single day.
I'm selfish
multiple
every
times.
day. I mean, that's for damn sure.
I know. Tom moved out of my office and came upstairs by himself, and I have resentment every day for it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I digress. But it says when these crop up. That was my point. It's not if. And it also talks about when these happen, we turn ourselves to helping somebody else. Find something to contribute to. Have a purpose. It goes on to say we cease fighting anything or anyone. I'm not allowed to go through life anymore fighting, arguing, being confrontational. Just in a nutshell, if you're picking up on it, this is all about living your life in a better way. You know, limiting. Let me talk about this for a sec. Continuing to take personal inventory. I'm good with that. Like Tom said earlier, I hate admitting when I'm wrong. So what I'm trying to do if I'm living this step, and this is just for me, I'm trying to live my life in a way where I don't have to admit that I'm wrong very often. Do I generally on a daily basis? Sure. But I try to limit, the level of how wrong I am. Make it something that's not big, Just trying to live my life in a better way. I want to share something really, really cool about step 10 that I think just about most people miss. You ready for this, Tom?
I'm ready.
Oh, dude, I had a sponsor. He almost jump out the window when he heard this when I was reading with him in my truck. He was so excited. His head almost exploded. So, step 3. Recall step 3? Made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. We're turning our will over. Do you know what happens in step 10?
What?
We get it back.
Ooh.
A lot of people don't realize that in step 10, according to the literature of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, we get our will back. What's a will? It's a plan. So, what part should I read here? I'm just going to read the last sentence of it. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. So by doing the first 9 steps, doing the 10th step where we continue to take personal inventory, we are living our life with the design for living. It's a good plan. We're trying to live in God's will. If we're trying to live in God's will, that's a good will, right? It's a good plan. God gave us brains to use, gave us the power to think, the ability to think, I should say. Step 10 gives us our will back. It's the proper use of the will. If my will for the day is to set out and be separate from selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, it's to help other people, it's to contribute to the world. Is that not proper use of the will?
I would say so.
Prior, the first 9 steps, I probably didn't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. And if I had any idea, I definitely wasn't living it. So in step 10, folks, you get your will back in the steps. A lot of people don't realize that. God consciousness kicks in, which we read about in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I won't go too crazy on that rabbit trail. But once that God consciousness kicks in, we have our will back.
That's pretty good stuff. I mean, it gives you something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. There's another part in here that I'll talk about. It says, it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. It talks about laurels. Laurels are like, do you know what a laurel is?
No.
No. So if you're like a Roman gladiator or something, I'm probably getting it a little bit wrong, but say, for instance, you're a Roman gladiator. At the end of the battle, they give you this golden feather.
Yep.
That you put in your hat or whatever the case is. Maybe you're part of the Trojan army or whatever. It's basically a trophy saying you've done this, and whatever it was, the battle was a good one. You can't rest on your laurels on the things that you did yesterday. There's no such thing as a spiritual bank account. I have to start fresh every single day. I want to read this next part. We are not cured of alcoholism. You know how we always have the argument between recovered and recovering?
Yeah.
The big book says we are not cured of alcoholism. What we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
Mm-hmm.
So, daily work, daily reprieve. Reprieve means to keep off. Usually a stay of execution. So I'm keeping myself away from death by working on myself every single day. Step 10 is an interesting step. If I throw it out there, spoiler alert, I prefer step 11.
Well, the good thing is we're going to get to that one.
We are going to get to step 11. I'll preface it with this. Step 11 is like step 10 for dummies. I'll explain that next time.
Anything else on step 10?
Here's an interesting part. I've kind of gone out of order with this, but it says here, we will see that our new attitude toward liquor or drugs has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. Let me ask you your take on that, Tom. Today, do you feel like you're fighting temptation to drink again?
No, not at all.
Not at all. It's like a position of neutrality, isn't it?
Well, I was actually talking about this last night at my meeting because there was a new guy there, and he had like 8 days sober. And I was just sharing from the context of, bad things are going to happen in our life, when we're sober, and we talk about this all the time. Life doesn't stop just because we get sober. We're going to have things that happen. And, I was talking in the context of when my dad had his stroke. The thought of drinking didn't even cross my mind. And that is a good place to be because, prior sobriety, I dealt with everything through alcohol, whether intentional or not, even when I was drinking, like if I didn't go out and drink, something bad happened, I'm going to go get drunk. It was just what I did. I didn't want to feel how I felt. So I went and got hammered. Fast forward to my dad having his stroke. I was feeling how I was feeling, but I'm in a different mindset. And I now go into okay, how do I handle this? What do I need to do? I'm sober. So the thought of drinking never even crossed my mind. I haven't had the temptation to drink in many, many, many years. What I would say is that even still to this day, if I go on vacation with my family somewhere and we're in a sports bar or something, and you got people belly up at the bar drinking big frosted mugs of beer, and you see, it's a beautiful sight. And I will look at that and I'll catch myself like, got a little mouth water or something. That's it. That's the extent of it. And it's a fleeting thought, and it comes and goes, and I can laugh at it today. But that's it. That's really the extent of it for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the book says we have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us.
Yeah.
It's I have a hard time. I guess I don't have a hard time saying it, but I do have a hard time explaining that to our clients sometimes. Because I remember sitting in early recovery, and when somebody tells me that they haven't had a mental obsession for a drink or a drug in X amount of years, I'm just like, how is that even possible? I really didn't believe it until I experienced it. It's like being an alcoholic and a drug addict to begin with. Like, how do you explain being a drug addict to somebody? who isn't a drug addict. It's impossible to explain. It really is. The same way that now that I'm sober over 12 years, and like Tom, like if I ever randomly like see a cold beer sweating on a bar at a restaurant, like, yeah, my mouth might water for like a split second, but then it's like, I don't know how to explain it.
It's not, and even when I'm in that situation, it's not like, oh, because we always hear, oh, play the tape through. I'm way beyond that. I don't have to play the tape through, because for me at this stage of my sobriety, it's more about risk versus reward. Am I willing to risk everything that I've built up over the years for this seemingly nice, ice cold, beer that is, like, no, it's not. I've been there, done that. I had a solid, 15 years of drinking, and it's just not something for me that's worth the risk,
What time today did you think about the movie The Little Mermaid?
What?
What time today did you think about the movie The Little Mermaid, the Disney movie,
I don't know where you're going with this, but I haven't thought about it.
You haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
Maybe you're listening to this and you ask yourself that question. You probably haven't thought about the movie The Little Mermaid either. It's super random. That is how it is with the last time I thought about a drink or a drug. It just never crosses my mind. There's no reason for it to cross my mind.
Yeah.
Other than me being in this field and like intentionally trying to help someone. You take away that, and it would cross my mind as much as watching The Little Mermaid did today.
It's funny you bring up Little Mermaid. A friend of mine last night at the meeting, we were talking about, I don't even know, but topic of wives got brought up, and he was all upset because he said that he had to, no, he wasn't upset. He was kind of being funny about it, that him and his wife are going on date night this weekend, and they're going to see Little Mermaid. I'm like, you're going on date night to go watch Little Mermaid? And he's like, yeah, unfortunately we are. I'm like, well, that you're a good man. I could think of a million other things I'd rather do than go watch Little Mermaid.
For him, the Little Mermaid problem has not been removed.
No, it has not. Now, if my wife asked me to go see Little Mermaid, I would. All you haters out there, I would.
You get the analogy, though?
Kinda.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But it's like, just think of something that you haven't thought of in forever and you have no reason to think of. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
I went from a guy that literally obsessed over alcohol and drugs every single day, obsessed, to doesn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is weird. All right. Well, hey, that's step 10. There's not a whole lot to it. When you're wrong, you promptly admit it, and you get to that step, and you will be ready to take that step, and you're growing in your sobriety. So next step is step 11, and Ben is very excited for that one, as am I. But until then, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. That is it. We'll see you later.